these are the sort of down ballot races that if voters are going to be interested and they don't stay away from the polls for Trump versus Biden, like how can you kind of generate that enthusiasm for people? And I'm curious to see now that we're not in the end game, but we're at the like end of the beginning, I suppose. So I'd like to see what the next kind of step is and how people can remain interested, because we've got a long old way to go.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with Managing Editor Chris Irvine.
Hey.
Chris, we are through Super Tuesday. It was a nearly clean sweep for both Joe Biden and Donald Trump, shaping up to be a rematch. What does that mean now for Congress and the 9 months that it has left?
It's the rematch nobody wanted.
Exactly.
Right? The prophecy is complete. We had the Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl in 2020 and 2024. Now we have that again. What does it mean for the next 9 months? Well, I think it's ultimately going to be more of the same from Biden and from Trump. I think everybody knows everything about them. I think everybody is set in their ways about them. You know what all the warts are. You know what all the legal issues are. You know that they're both old. They both make mistakes. We know that Joe Biden is in the toilet when it comes to polling. So yeah, I'm interested to see how congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats can generate a bit of interest in their races. I think I mentioned to you last week that Super Tuesday felt like a kind of opportunity for people to kind of get into that a bit more. The one that I was obviously very interested in was the California Senate primary, which ended up will be a runoff between Adam Schiff and Republican Steve Garvey, which was interesting surprise. It looks like Schiff's played an absolute blinder there by getting rid of Katie Porter. But these are the sort of down ballot races that if voters are going to be interested and they don't stay away from the polls for Trump versus Biden, like how can you kind of generate that enthusiasm for people? And I'm curious to see now that we're not in the end game, but we're at the like end of the beginning, I suppose. So I'd like to see what the next kind of step is and how people can remain interested, because we've got a long old way to go.
You know, normally election years are tough times for legislating. No one wants to vote on an unpopular bill when it'll be fresh in people's memory. Do you think we'll see any legislating when the appropriations bills pass? Are we just done getting anything out of Congress?
That's a very funny joke, Sarah. I like that. Yeah, no, I personally, I don't think so. I mean, isn't everybody just kind of set in their ways? We've already seen indications of the border fiasco and the legislation that didn't happen there, and what was it, Jim Jordan coming out and saying, we'll let the voters decide in November. And it's like, look, guys, we're just in March right now. I think, if everybody was kind of actually in it for the legislation, then we might be having a different story. But we all know what's really going on here. And it's just going to be both sides throwing mud at each other for the next, God knows how long, 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know. Time is a flat circle.
Right? Yeah. It's going to go quick, though.
Yeah.
So both sides are, as you just mentioned, pretty entrenched, and their fates are kind of dependent on what happens with Trump and Biden, right?
Sure.
Typically, those down ballot races can't outperform top of the ticket that much.
Yeah.
Do you see things like new congressional maps or the fact that the Senate maps this year, the candidates that are in cycle happen to be slightly tilted towards Republicans? Is that enough to give the GOP the edge, or do you see it as a real toss-up for control of Congress?
Oh, I mean, I think the congressional maps will have some play in them. I don't want to dive too far into specifics there, because I confess I don't know all of the specifics there.
That's okay. It's not that interesting, to be honest.
But I mean, ultimately, it feels like control of Congress always kind of comes down to about 30 seats or so. I remember 4 years ago when we were looking at it, and really there's not that many toss-up seats out there anymore. And I suspect that will be kind of more of the same, and with the legislative maps redrawn, things will just get even more entrenched. And I guess it's ultimately kind of trying to identify which states will kind of play an outsized role there. I know that we looked in the midterms and New York played a role. We've talked about California playing a role because there's so many seats there. So I guess you just kind of, both sides are going to have to look for the the margins and trying to get the most kind of electable people in there. And that seemed to be an issue with the Republicans last time when the red wave that never was, partly because of the electability of certain candidates. And it worked in some areas and then it kind of backfired on them in others. Now, I think there's a lot more singing from the same hymn sheet this time from the Republicans. Whether that continues will be interesting. But ultimately, is everybody on the right going to fall in line under Trump? And is it the party of MAGA now? And is there any room for the country club Republicans that Nikki Haley seems to have fallen on her sword for?
Yeah, that's a really good label for them, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Sure.
You can get more reporting from Chris and the rest of the political team at WashingtonExaminer.com.